Yes, Fabrizio, thank you very much for this kind introduction. It's really a pleasure for me being here, and thank you also to Pedro for having me. I think Pascal made a very, very enthusiastic and great job in setting the scene. So what will the future bring? And I think it's now my turn to tell you how you could become part of this. Let me just share my screen. So I hope you can now see my presentation. Can someone please quickly confirm? Fabrizio, can you see my presentation? Because
yes.
I can't.
Yes.
Somebody should tell me. So it's visible?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Because I have full screen now. And it's a pleasure for me now to tell you more about innovation from space, and more particular how ESA, the European Space Agency, supports startups to apply space technologies. So let me just start with setting the scene. The program that is responsible for this is the ESA Space Solutions Program. You could call it a large space innovation network, which actually tries to support startups as well as small and medium-sized companies to position themselves in space and offer actually their products and services, including the application domain. For this purpose, in fact, 2006, in the end of 2006, we founded a company called the Center for Satellite Navigation Hesse in Darmstadt. And this company is located directly next to ESOC, which is the European Space Operations Center of ESA in Darmstadt. There, all the European satellites are being controlled. And this is, of course, a substantial resort for technology know-how. The whole thing was a cooperation and a joint initiative between ESA and the state of Hesse. And you can see from the lower end of the slide, there are several shareholders, including the universities and also companies. So, but what do we do? Our main purpose is to support startups and technology transfer. But we don't do that on our own. In fact, as you can see on this slide, we are part of a growing network of centers which support startups all across Europe. This network is called the ESA Business Incubation Network, and these centers are all run by a company like cesah or any type of institution. So ESA is partnering with these institutions, and together we are a big network which helps startups. Now, this has actually started many, many years ago. In Darmstadt, for example, we do that now for 14 years. And as a matter of fact, if you count all the startups together, we have in the order of 1,000 now being supported in 20 BICs with around about 60 plus locations across Europe. In Darmstadt, we also work with colleagues from the south of Germany in Baden-Württemberg. So we in total host 3 of the incubation centers. And in addition to that, we also support technology transfer from space to the non-space and do that also together with partners. So this is the framework. And now the big question that you might have is, how can I participate into this? What we actually do is we run evaluation rounds 3 times a year. It's an open call where everybody can participate. So you can send us your business plan in English, and there are certain templates, of course, available via our webpage. And then we have an evaluation process which is standardized across Europe. That means no matter in which ESA BIC you apply, you will see more or less the same situation, and you can apply for funding, but also for technical support. And should you be successful, and we are doing all that we can that this will happen, you would then be supported up to 2 years. I just mentioned already the financial support. It's 50,000 euro. It's a combination of funding from ESA, but also from the region, in our case of the state of Hesse, which is, as you can see on the right side, in the middle, and where the upper dot is located in the middle of Germany. It's one of the states there. And just honestly, we are south of Frankfurt. So Fabrizio and Pedro are from Frankfurt. We are sitting in Darmstadt, more or less 20 kilometers away to the south. In addition to this 50K, you can also get a loan from the local band, but also technical support. Now, this technical support, I think, is a differentiator from our program. in Darmstadt in particular, we have the luxury that next door is the European Space Operations Centre. There is, for example, a team with more than 30 years of experience in processing and refinement of GPS, GLONASS, and of course, nowadays also Galileo data. And they can make their know-how about precise positioning available to our startups. So this is the real added value of becoming part of the network, and depending on in which ESA BIC you apply, you will find partners which can provide you with the know-how that you can apply space technology. Now, this is not the only support we can provide. On a regular basis, actually every year, and more or less 10 years by now, we are running conferences. They are called Global Navigation Meets Geoinformation. The title is chosen because more and more we see combined applications of space technologies. So not only navigation, but also, for example, Earth observation. So it's actually a combination of both. And therefore, we run these conferences every year to show the latest of the technologies, but also present the application side. And by doing this, we offer our startups a podium where they can present their ideas and their progress, and we run competitions. You may have heard of the so-called Galileo Masters or the Copernicus Masters. These are two international competitions organized by our colleagues in Bavaria at AZO, and we are running in Hessen also a challenge where we ask startups and individuals to join and present their ideas in front of a gremium. And in this conference, we would traditionally present the winners. But that's not all. It's not only about technology, of course. The other important aspect is finance. If you are a startup, you can get some funding, as you just heard, but long-term, you also may need an investor or a business angel. And for that reason, ESA organizes almost on a yearly basis the so-called ESA Investment Forum, where we had the pleasure to host it last year in 2019 at ESOC in Darmstadt, where we had 14 pre-selected startups, which we also coached and supported, so that the pitches are really excellent, and 20 investors who were then able to discuss with the startups their propositions. This was also complemented by podiums, discussions, and workshops, and was a great event, which we will certainly repeat once the corona pandemic is hopefully over. But looking at our track record, when we only look at Darmstadt in Baden-Württemberg, we have been supporting by now far more than 100. So actually the number today is 133 startups. And I think it's interesting what they are doing. On the one hand, many of them, as you will see on the left figure, are still working with satellite navigation, but the area of Earth observation is gaining more and more importance. And as I mentioned already, there are more and more combination of both technologies. What we also see, and Pascal has mentioned this technology, of course, as well beforehand in his speech, artificial intelligence. It's a cross-cutting technology which also used in space operations, for example, also in the evaluation of Earth observation data, and more startups are using it. When we look at where the entrepreneurs are coming from, I would say it's more or less half and half from university and research, but also half are coming from the target industries. So people who know their domain, like logistics environment, but they would like to understand how they can use space technology. And only more or less 10% are coming from the aerospace industry. But I should say that this is growing because more recently it was decided that we are also allowed on behalf of ESA to support startups that do not only apply space technology, but also want to contribute to the commercialization of space. So when you apply it, we would call it a spin-off, the spin-off of space technology in the non-space environment, and the other way around would be spin-in, so you use technology which is not yet established in space, but can actually make a big difference then in the commercialization of space itself. Now let me give you two examples that you can understand what these startups are more or less about. One area is precision farming. This is also a development which has started a few years ago and grew and grew. So there are more and more companies focusing on this area. We have been supporting the company Soloro, which provides a mobile app for the entry, easy entry into precision farming. What means easy is that Towards the farmer, it's simply an app. But of course, on the other hand, there is an extensive backbone where Earth observation data is being used, as well as precise satellite navigation and communication. So the idea here is that when you are in the field, you can actually, from your location, derive what is my area. So you don't have to manually define what is the field. It is done automatically based on Earth observation data, which really removes a lot of complexity for such a use case. And then you can ask the tool to calculate a so-called field potential analysis for your own field. And that means that the biomass is calculated over the years. So not only current Earth observation data is used, also past data. And in this combination, you can evaluate where you should actually use fertilizer and where you shouldn't. Because the problem is, if there is a lot of biomass, the fertilizer will help you to improve the crop. But on the other hand, where there is not so much biomass over the year, the fertilizer will not have any benefit, but it will go to the underwater, and then the problem will be that you spoil the environment. And there are actually regulations on European and also German level which ask you not to do that, of course, and therefore it's a combination of savings in terms of how much fertilizer you use, and also in terms of protecting the environment. So the idea is then, once you have this map, you upload it to your system of the tractor, and then you can simply drive automatically along, and the amount of fertilizer is regulated in an automatic fashion. Now, this is one example. The other example, and that uses actually a similar combination of data and technologies. On the one hand side, Earth observation data, but also precise navigation, and again, artificial intelligence. And it's called Poseidon. It's a tool which was developed by the company Deep Blue Globe and allows a maritime company who runs a fleet of ships to optimize their shipping routes. They can save fuel, of course, and on the other hand, they again reduce the environmental impact. Now, how does it work? If you look to the lower right, you will see there is a map, and you can see the currents along the Atlantic Ocean. And this is actually derived from Earth observation data, from weather data, and it helps you to predict what is the optimal route to get to my target. Normally, you would say from a geometrical point of view, it's always a great circle along the surface of the Earth. But in fact, that's the red line. If you look close, there is a kind of blue-greenish line, and that is not exactly along this great circle, but it's even more optimal because it avoids the currents and helps you to save fuel. This is, again, based on Earth observation data. You use satellite navigation to actually follow this rule and update it on time by time in real time, and also using artificial intelligence to calculate the optimum. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that we're not only supporting startups, we are also supporting technology transfer. So if people from companies are with us today who are already established, there is also a new means to provide funding through ESA, and it's called Spark. It's available in Germany and also in some other member states of ESA. And the idea here is to really try out whether the transfer of technology from space into a non-space environment will make sense from a technical point of view, but also from a market point of view. So the idea is to provide a budget in the order of 80,000 euro, out of which 60,000 would be funding over a period of time of 12 months. And then you can actually find this out together with a potential user of that technology. Now, you can apply via an open call. This is a similar process for the ESA BIC, and we plan to start this beginning of the next year and have then, as well as for the ESA BIC, also 3 times a year an evaluation procedure. Now, how do we get in touch with our startups, our innovators? Well, one important element for this, besides the competitions that I already mentioned, is hackathons. And it's really a great story of success that we had a number of hackathons together with partners. We learned a lot how to do them. We started in 2016 with Act in Space. Then 2 years later was the second Act in Space, 2018. then a Copernicus hackathon, a Climathon, and so on. And now, very recently, 3 weeks ago, we had the Act in Space in Darmstadt again, 2020. The problem, of course, as you will be aware, this year was we would have to do it completely online and remotely, and we actually succeeded. It was a really great adventure. This is how a hackathon normally looks like. So you meet together, you discuss, you code, and then you present in front of maybe even business angels. This time we had to do that completely online. We had 72 registrants. We had 10 teams which presented in the end, 14 mentors, a number of jury members with 10 pitches in the end. And these are the pictures of the online edition in Darmstadt of the Act in Space. And we are really proud that everything worked out. To the lower left, you see a colleague from ESA giving a keynote speech. To the upper right, it's my colleague Sascha Heising showing the team the prize, and they will, of course, also go now for the international challenge. And to the lower right, you see the team. They have the interesting name of Exploding Starships, but I can assure you their proposition was less destructive. It was really a good one, and we were really happy to have them. Now, to finish my presentation, please feel free to contact us anytime. May it be that you want to go for a technology transfer, you are interested how to start a company. Whenever you want to get engaged in space, we are happy to help. Thank you very much.